So if you're here, you probably are already very familiar with what an avoidant discard is. More than likely, you were in a relationship where everything seemed amazing and you were the happiest you've ever been, and then out of nowhere, your partner just goes cold on you. And whether it's they break up and they go cold on you, whether it's they completely, they look like the person that they were, but they've lost kinds of that loving energy towards you, whether they've completely ghosted you out of nowhere, whatever version of avoidant discard you are dealing with, it is one of the most painful, most life-shocking, system-shaking relationship breakups that you can possibly go through. And it's not what I think is missed by a lot of people, maybe your friends, maybe people who are trying to support you, maybe even therapists, quite honestly, is that it's not a normal breakup. It is absolutely not a normal breakup. It is a breakup that will change your psyche. It is a breakup that makes you feel pain, emotional pain, like you may have never felt before. And it is also a breakup that has the ability to change your life. So join me for the rest of this video while I break it down. My name is Flora. I'm the founder of Redo Love. And we are here to break patterns and cycles that have been holding you back from actually having the love you want. Some of you may have experienced an avoidant discard for the first time, and some of you may have a pattern of attracting avoidance. Whichever version you're dealing with, I am here to help. So let's redo love together. Like I said before, it's not a normal breakup. In a normal breakup, there are signs, there are conversations, there is a period of tension, there is a long enough time period that you may be worn out from the relationship yourself, or from the fighting, or from the tension that has been going on between you. There were probably a lot of conversations along the way. There was probably a lot of enough processing along the way, and more than likely an appropriate type of closure. Whether it was, the best or not, doesn't really matter, but there was enough information for you to be able to process closure. With an avoidant discard, things are great one day. There are no seeming problems, or no problems that are evident to you, and then this person's gone. And a lot of times what is even worse, whether you're completely ghosted, or sometimes this person is just there. They're there, but they are so cold. They have lost any sensitivity to you. You feel like you annoy the living daylights out of them anytime you ask them a question. If you want to express how sad you are or how uncomfortable you are, they maybe are rolling their eyes or just sitting there blankly. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to talk about it. They're like a brick wall suddenly, right? This person that was loving to you, this person that was planning a future with you, this person that, was telling you that they wanted to spend the rest of their lives with you, or plan ahead with you at the very least. This person is in the same body with the same face, no longer there. And so your brain, how does one's brain process that, right? It's nearly impossible for your brain as a non-avoidant person, and your body, more importantly, much more importantly than your brain, to process that. So when I talk to a lot of people, a lot of my clients can't understand, right? And oftentimes what they tell me is, and what I've experienced myself, is that your brain can understand. Your brain can understand there's like emotional trauma on the other side. Your brain can understand that they shut down when they feel closeness, but still your body can't process it. And I'm going to tell you the truth. You will never be able to understand it. We, from childhood, are all programmed. We're programmed and conditioned by our parents first, right? Specifically our mom, and the relationship that we had with her, the relationship that she had to us, and how she treated us when we cried, when we needed attention, when there was an attachment break, like, for example, if somebody is adopted, right? That is happening on a nervous system level, because from the ages of 0 to 1.5, you are completely and totally nervous system. Your brain isn't really online yet. You don't have language to explain how you feel. All you can do is cry out, and all you can do is pick up information on a nervous system level. You're picking up, you're understanding the information from your nervous system. And so every time your mother doesn't, or your caretakers don't kind of pay attention to you, or don't validate you, or don't, let you cry it out to fall asleep, or just don't come to you when you cry, all of that adds up into a conditioning, right? A conditioning that allows you to realize that when you have emotions, when you cry out, when you have feelings, nobody's coming. The people that you rely on for life, they're not going to be there, right? So imagine that type of conditioning versus others of us, even others of us with attachment issues, right, that lean more anxious. Sometimes you got the love and attention that you needed on the anxious side, and sometimes it wasn't available. And so you at least have the understanding of what it is to get that attention. You at least have the understanding of what it feels like, and that's what makes you crave it that much more. And so in a lot of ways, it's like a programming, right? Like really like a computer programming. So one of you is a Mac and the other one functions on Windows. And have you ever tried to integrate those two? Have you ever tried to like switch stuff over? Have you ever tried to use an Android with a Mac computer, or vice versa? An iPhone with a Windows computer. It's like it just doesn't work, right? It never syncs properly. And this is what the relationship is with somebody who's anxious versus with somebody who's avoidant, right? And so I'm not saying that it can never work, but you really have to understand the platform that you're starting out with. Now, with different programming, with coaching, with therapy, with most importantly, self-acknowledgement on both sides that something needs to change and work has to be done, and the willingness to work together, there's a possibility. But usually, if you're here from an avoidant discard, that avoidant more than likely isn't ready to make that change, because if they were, they probably would have done it by now. But hey, who am I? Crazy things happen in the world. Now, this is why an avoidant discard is often worse than somebody dying. Because again, your brain cannot process that a person that was loving and kind and warm to you 1 minute is the same human, but cold and distant and dismissive and won't come back around. Okay? It is very hard to see in front of your eyes the same exact thing acting differently. And so it's often more difficult than death because we have inherent frameworks for death. We all know we're going to die. We all know that people in our life are going to die. And we grow up living with that reality. So part of our programming is knowing that people we love will die. There is no part of our programming that tells us the same person that was kind and loving to us will be cold, distant, and mean. Unless you grew up with a mother or father who was like that, you have that programming, which actually probably pulls in more avoidance until you recognize and realize that. But we're going to leave that to the side right now because that's a whole nother video that we can get into. Nevertheless, it is one of the most difficult things in the world for most people to process. So if you're anxious or if you are secure and you're dealing with an avoidant discard, you are going to have a really hard time, really inherently inside your body, inside your nervous system, understanding that a person could really shut down like an avoidant shuts down. And what happens is your brain is constantly trying to reconcile this reality. Your brain understands things. It knows that this person is shut down. It knows that they're not coming back to you. It knows that you're, on some level, you're not dealing with the same person. But your body, your nervous system is in complete shock, awe, and denial because it functions like a Mac, let's say, for example, right? You're the Mac. Why can't you work like I work? Why can't you do the things the way that I do them? It will not comprehend that an avoidant person can shut down the way that they do. I want to talk a little bit about the neuroscience behind this because this is partially can help to explain what your mind and body is going through. So I'm going to be referring to my notes, by the way. So our brains are wired for connection, and also our brains are wired for pattern recognition. Neurobiologist Dr. Matthew Lieberman's research shows us that our need for connection, it's so fundamental because we are tribal animals, right? We survive in packs, that our brains process social pain in the same regions that they process physical pain. But with avoidant discard, it's not just social pain, it's cognitive chaos. When we form attachment bonds, our brains create what researchers call internal working models. And these attachment models become these internal working models, these attachment models, they become part of our neural architecture. Okay. So they become automatic. You don't think about them. They just exist in you. They are what they are. This is how relationships inherently work. This is how people will give or take act within like 10% of each other. And this is how it is, right? So your brain literally wires itself around the reality of this person loving you, caring about you, wanting to be with you. Helen Fisher's neuroimaging Dr. Helen Fisher's neuroimaging studies observe that when we're in love, specific areas of our brain light up with dopamine, and that creates powerful reward pathways. With avoidant discard, these pathways are suddenly getting mixed signals. The visual cue of the person triggers the love response, right? Let's think Pavlov's dog here. They hear the bell, the dogs hear the bell, and they're ready for food, but their behavior triggers rejection and pain responses in the place where there used to be love and connection. Your brain is like, rah, rah, what do you mean? You rang the bell, but I'm not getting food? Like, what are you talking about? Like, where's my food? And what often happens, either like after at the kinds of the dying out phase, if there is one, not everybody gets one, but if there is one, is intermittent reinforcement, right? Which is the same thing that gamblers deal with, right? Like if every once in a while you get a response from the avoidant, if every once in a while you reach out to them and they give you just a little bit, just, some breadcrumbs, if they throw you just a little something, you're on the hook. You keep reaching out because something feels better than nothing, even though something is almost nothing. So another thing that I think is really important here is how avoidants experience love. The work of Dr. Philip Shaver and Dr. Kim Bartholomew show us that avoidantly attached individuals experience love in a different way. And for someone with an avoidant attachment, love can exist without proximity. And that is a really important thing to understand because, again, the people that program them, their parents, they're the people that love them, the people that were supposed to show them the most amount of connection couldn't do it and weren't near. And it didn't really matter whether they were in the room or not. It doesn't mean there wasn't love, but a lot of times what it means is that they weren't, even if their bodies were there sometimes, they were still kind of somewhere else, right? And so they can love you without being near you. They can love you, think highly of you, think terribly of what they did to you, and feel like there's no space to come back to you or want to come back to you because they know that, like, if you get too close, and they know that you have the capacity to get too close because that's why they left to begin with, that's why they discarded you to begin with, that they will get triggered again, that they will hurt you again, but really that they will get hurt again. And so a lot of times avoidants will make this excuse, right? They will say something like, I don't want to hurt you anymore. I don't want to, I don't want to do this to you. I can't be with you. This is best for both of us. But what they're really saying is, I don't want you to see the mess that I am inside. Can't get close enough to you that you understand how broken I really am. And that even though sometimes I experience like good feelings with you, the fear that you will see my brokenness is so huge that I rather love you from afar. So when they discard, it's often not because they stopped caring. It's because their attachment system and all these feelings just became so overwhelming by that intimacy, by that being seen, that it triggered a complete shutdown. And their programming kicks in. And when I say programming, I don't mean they're thinking these things. I mean they can fully want to be with you, know that you are good for them, understand the good times that you guys have had together, but system kick in and it says block, stop, too much, we're gonna explode. And so there's nothing almost they can do in that reality, right? They can do something if they work on it. They can do something if they're willing to recognize it. They can do something, if they want to work on it. But in that space, there is really nothing that they can do but run the other way. One of the other difficulties of this situation is it's not that just that you're discarded. It's not just that like the version of this person has died and you don't know what the hell is going on and your brain is short circuiting, but on top of that, you feel totally and completely blindsided. The work of Dr. Judith Herman on psychological trauma shows us that traumatic events are characterized by being outside our normal range of human experience and overwhelming our ability to cope. Avoidant discard fits this criteria perfectly. It's outside most people's understanding of how love and relationships work, that it can create genuine trauma responses. And oftentimes after an avoidant discard, many people, especially people that haven't experienced like toxic relationships before, it's the first time it's happening, especially people who tend to be like mostly secure, will be traumatized, right? Especially also depending on the level of the relationship and how many years and whatnot. But people can get physically, mentally, emotionally traumatized by this. And I personally don't think there are enough studies on the traumatic impacts that avoidant discards have, because there just aren't enough, if any, studies of impact it has on your brain, on your body, on your nervous system. On a lot of times it feels like PTSD. It forces you to go into overthinking mode. It forces you to question your reality totally and completely. Like one day this was my life, the next day it's complete opposite. And what did I do wrong, right? That's the next thing we're going to get into. How it causes you to question yourself, to question your reality, to gaslight yourself that if you just work harder and you try harder, that things can turn around. Because in your programming, if you love someone, you figure it out. In an avoidance programming, if you love someone, you leave them be and run away. You understand? Mom left them be. Mom ran away or didn't come. So that is their programming for love. But they're not understanding the impact that they're leaving on you, because that's the only way they know how to function. That's the only modeling they ever had. So you're left not just heartbroken, but psychologically injured. And the worst part is that there's no map for this. This is somewhat of a new phenomenon, or at least, newly named. And it just seems like in the past, this has happened. I mean, plenty of people have been blindsided, but all of these things together at once, blindsided, completely shut down on, questioning your reality, a patterning that most people have never experienced. There seems to be some sort of like boiling point, and maybe because it's what I do when I talk to people all the time about this stuff, but I just don't think that ever in history have we had this many people experiencing the same type of new trauma in a lot of ways. So this is why it's not like a normal breakup, right? Because you're dealing with blindsided, you're dealing with discarded, you are dealing with questioning your reality, questioning yourself, everything you did. And it causes you to have PTSD, essentially, overthinking, ruminating, can't stop questioning. Everything that you thought was real is kind of sort of not real anymore, in the way that you normally understand it. And the worst thing that it does is make us question ourselves and question our ability, our way of loving. Because, most of us just want to love and be loved. And when you're trying to do the right thing and trying to just have a relationship and love someone and have someone love you back, it just seems like you should be able to work shit out, right? You should be able to work stuff out, but not with an avoidant that is in their avoidant reaction or dealing with their avoidant coping mechanisms. And this is why normal breakup advice doesn't work. Okay. This is why, people are telling you, oh, just move on, just get over it. It's not worth your time. It's not worth your energy. Your brain is not, you don't want to feel this way. You don't want to think this way, right? But you can't stop. And it's because your brain and your body is trying to resolve something that it cannot put together. Your programming was not wired to make these connections. And that is why the normal breakup advice doesn't apply here. If you could just get over it, you would. If you could just forget about it and move on, you would. And even when people tell you no contact, it also is limited in its scope of helping you because you're dealing with a nervous system that is in overdrive trying to make sense of the feelings, the experience, and there aren't enough words, there is not enough thinking that is going to help. And often the only thing that does help is what helped before, which is contact with the person that you loved. And all you want to do is be in contact, speak to them. And that's why you're willing to accept those breadcrumbs. But at the same time, it's not the best move for you. And it's also not the best move to ease the nervous system of the avoidant because they are also in their attachment wound at this time, right? They are also dealing in their own way, in the way that they were programmed to make this separation, right? And so reaching out, while it might make you feel better for a minute, ultimately it's probably not the best move. But it's also why no contact has limited capacity to really help you feel better. But what I want to offer you instead, right, is that you can understand, like I said earlier, death better than you can understand this whole chaos. Okay. What I recommend is that you treat this situation once you've come to some place of acceptance, because I know in the beginning it's like, what the hell, right? But once you've come to some place of acceptance, what your best bet is to treat this like a death, is to process this like you process grief work. Okay. When somebody dies, right, we don't expect them to just get over it. We don't tell them like, oh, just move on. We're more sensitive to them. And this offers you an opportunity to be more compassionate with yourself, to stop trying to blame yourself, trying to figure out how, if you fix this or if you fix that, maybe things will work out. Because even though the relationship may have been toxic, let's say, even though there are probably possibly things that you did that weren't great, or you could have spoken up more, or whatever it is, okay? This was going to happen because if you're with an avoidant, this is their modus operandi, right? This is how things will end if they're not doing the work to help themselves. Your body is more capable of processing the emotions of death than they are to process the emotions of this. So treat this like you're having a memorial, like you're saying goodbye to somebody that no longer exists, because the truth is the relationship is dead. The person you knew them as is dead. The future you have is dead. So there's a lot there to grieve over, right? And the more you treat this and allow yourself the grieving process, right? To be angry, to be mad, to negotiate, to what are the stages? Here we are. To bargain, to be depressed, to accept. It's much more relatable and understandable than trying to make sense of how somebody can just switch up on you like they have. Allow yourself to treat this like a significant trauma, not just a breakup. Allow yourself a grieving period, right? Not just expecting yourself to get over it, not just saying, oh, well, this isn't like me and I'm not this type of person. And, normally this never happens. Allow yourself the reality that this is happening, and allow yourself to grieve, understanding that healing isn't linear. So one day you're going to feel better. You're going to go out and do something. You're going to go out with friends. You're going to get home and you're going to cry your eyes out, But over time, that will soften, as long as you're doing the proper processing work as well. Focus on dealing with your nervous system. The stories you're telling yourself in your head, you will never make sense of them. Okay? It will never make sense to you, no matter how much you understand it, no matter how many books you read, no matter how knowledgeable you are. And I tell this to you as somebody who has been through it, as somebody who has had all the information, who has read the books. The feelings of a discard like this do not get easier. They do not get better. Okay? The pain is the pain. You are going to have to deal with it. So stop thinking that you are going to think your way out of your feelings. You are not. You have to sit with your feelings and you have to process your feelings and emotions. And moreover, especially if this is a pattern, especially if this is something that has traumatized you in the way that I've been describing, you really have to process within the subconscious space, which is specifically what I do in my subconscious reprogramming work, right? I give you a specific methodology, a specific way to get over like heavy situations like this and to deal with triggering events, not only this one, but in life overall. So you can tap in with me if you're interested in that. Another really difficult part of these discards is that you may never get closure. And that is the hardest part. Your brain wants to close the loop. That's part of patterning, right? You see a pattern and then you define the pattern and the loop is closed. And when you can't close the loop, when you can't get the answers, when you can't figure out why or how, your brain is like forever in this cycle of trying to figure it out, right? Trying to understand. And your brain thinks that if it can understand it, your body will feel better, right? But your body doesn't feel better from more information. Your body feels better from love, attention, acceptance, and compassion. So practice that compassion for yourself. Practice that compassion and love that you would give to a friend if somebody dear to them passed away. Grieve the person, grieve the relationship, create a ritual, put them, make a funeral if that feels right. Do whatever it is that you need to do to close the loop for yourself and create that closure for yourself, because that is sometimes the only closure that you can get. And the greatest gift that you can give yourself is to just remind yourself that you will never understand this way of being. You will never really understand how it's possible that somebody could function like this. And that's okay. And you being a loving person that wants a healthy relationship, it makes sense that you wouldn't understand this, and via that, give yourself closure. And again, healing is not linear, right? So some days you're going to get it. You might watch this video. You might be like, yeah, no, that's right. It's true. And yeah, I feel better. And then, later you're going to be crying over soup. Who knows, But just know that that's okay. And it takes time, especially when your brain is trying to rectify such a wildly chaotic, ununderstandable event. If this video helped you at all, please subscribe. Please click all the buttons, leave a comment, interact with me. I would love to hear what you think. I want to hear what topics you want me to talk about. I focus on attachment styles. I focus on the subconscious, dating and relationships in general. But I am so happy to get to share this information with you. And the more that you touch all the buttons, send this to a friend, post it, on your own pages, the more I'm able to be here and to help you understand the pain and the trauma that you're dealing with. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.